Sandler IR theory, how to stop blaming others and circumstances for how you feel. In previous issues, we talked about transactional analysis in the stroke economy. And the problem for many of us is that we are running scripts of parental injunctions or commands and have swallowed hook, line, and sinker all of what our parental figures have told us we are. This forms the critical parent ego state we run off of. And not only that, we saw how many of us, in order to get the psychological strokes we needed, resigned ourselves to live according to the faulty scripts of the parent by going into the adaptive child ego state. The problem with these script behaviors is that we cede control over our lives to an outside party, a party that might have meant well but nonetheless dominates the way we perceive reality, and more importantly, to what extent we can truly live our lives in freedom. The key to Sandler IR, or identity roles theory, then, is to begin to see ourselves as a 10 on the I side of the equation. It is only then that role performance will be able to take off. You see, most people don't set lofty goals that will stretch them because their I side is not high enough. Their I side determines their comfort zone. Most at-leasters or losers would rather not set goals at all. Why is this? It is simply because there is not enough belief in themselves on the I side to bother with it. If you find yourself not wanting to set goals, you probably have low belief on the I side, because your I side controls what roles you'll even attempt to accomplish. This is why transactional analysis and Sandler Training tell you that you started life off as a 10. And like I said in the previous video, it is only your critical parent scripting that has sold you on believing that you're anything less. Here's what Dave Mattison, CEO of Sandler Training, says. Your feelings are the result of your thinking, your interpretations of events. Moreover, you're free to interpret events any way you want. You can give them a positive spin and create positive feelings, or you can give them a negative spin and create negative feelings. The choice is yours, not the prospects, not the gatekeepers, not anyone else's. So if you've been blaming others for the way you feel, stop. Do what Sandler says and cover up your belly button. Don't allow anyone to plug in. Just like an embryo has an umbilical cord and it receives nourishment from the mother, oftentimes we allow other people to plug in, so to speak, to give us all the negativity, and we end up believing it's part of our personality, but it's not. It's the outside world. Role failure does not equal identity failure. At the core of Sandler IR theory is the separation of identity and role, as we talked about in previous issues. In their book, Sandler Success Principles, Mattison and Seidman talk about an impregnable castle, and you can get this book on Amazon.com. I may leave a link in the description. This is your I side, who you are. Surrounding this castle is a moat separating your security in the outside world roles. As long as you stay in your castle, you're a 10. Mattison states, no one can enter your castle and harm you or devalue your self-worth. The events of the outer world remain in the outer world. Mattison also talks about that every day you cross the moat into the real world donning your armor. And the real world here would be your roles that you perform on a daily basis. Some of the negative aspects of war or role failure may dent your armor, but at the end of every day, you go back into the security of your castle with 10. The key then is to totally separate who you are and what you do, or in other words, your identity from the roles you play. In this, if you watch the previous video or a few videos back about if you were on a deserted island all by yourself, stripped of all your roles and responsibilities, how would you relate yourself? Now, most people rate themselves a 5, but that's because they're scripted by the critical parent, that unless they do certain things, they don't know what they're worth. But you should rate yourself a 10, ideally. Role failure has no effect on who you are as a person. The cares and trials of the day never make it past the armor to penetrate your heart, or who you are, your self-image. Here's the thing, the at-leaster and loser are defeated before they even cross the bridge into the real world, because they carry the, quote, real world with them 24/7. So for losers and at leasters, what happens in the real world is what they are. That's who they are. Their self-image or identity. And every bit of rejection or negativity stares back at them in the mirror. The winner, on the other hand, doesn't let the world plug into his or her belly button, so to speak. And this is a crucial point. Sandler said that when on a sales call, you only got his uniform, not him as a person, because identity failure is much too costly. It's who you are. So role failure is not so bad when you put it in that perspective. This is a really liberating concept when you understand it fully. As a matter of fact, when you do, you will find yourself doing those things you once feared. And fear is the child ego state. The loser on the IR scale is from 0 to 3 on the I side, and usually 0 to 3 on the roll side as well. The loser will only do those activities within that range or comfort zone. The at-leaster will only do those things from 4 to 6 on the scale. If either of the above achieves something above their comfort zones on the roll side, it won't last. They will self-regulate back down to where they are conceptually. And because that's the case, in the next issue we will cover some of the scripts people live by caused by the critical parent. So we'll go over the language of the critical parent. And maybe you might recognize it as some of your own. Maybe if you don't, that's great. Okay, I'll see you on the next issue.